preprocessing, click on the data preprocessing, and inside data preprocessing, here I am at my project 3 dealing with the missing values. So click on this file so that we can open it in our Google Colab environment. So here I am in my project 3. So for project 3, I will import pandas. I will import numpy. So I am importing pandas as PD and numpy as NP. So click on this cell so that we can import these Python libraries. Now it's time to generate the dataset. So for generating dataset, I am using pandas, and the function which I am going to use is pd.dataframe. So pd.dataframe will help us to generate the dataset. And here I am using the dictionaries in order to generate the dataset. If you see, here is the curly bracket where the dictionary starts, and here is the another curly bracket where the dictionary ends. And I am using the key value pair of the dictionary in order to create the dataset. So my first key is name, and these are the values inside the key. My second key is region, and these are the values for the key. And the third key is sales, expenses, loss values. So in this way, I have 5 keys, and I have values associated with those keys. We know that in dictionaries, we use keys and values in order to create the data. So I am using the same concept inside the function pd.dataframe. When I will run this cell, those keys will become the column of the data. So let's run this cell in order to create the data. We can see here those name, region, sales, expenses, and loss values, those 5 keys have become the column of the data. Now we have from 0 to 11, we have 11 values in each column, and we have quite a few null values which are appearing as NaN in those columns. That is not a number. NaN stands for not a number, and our null values or missing values are appearing with NaN in those columns. So we have a null value here. Similarly, we have a null value here and here as well. So this column has 2. Similarly, this expenses has a null value here and here, and this loss value has a null value here. Now, the 2 important things are these 2 question marks. Now, let's see, we have to decide, or we will check whether these are null values, missing values, or these are the characters which are uninterpretable for this data. Okay, let's see the information about the data. So we will write df.info. df is our data, that is data frame. So let's run this cell. So we are getting some information about our data. So we have 11 entries in each column from 0 to 10. So we can see that we have 11 entries from 0 to 10. Okay, after that, in the column name, we have 11 no null. So according to this information, in the first column, which is name, we do not have any null value. All the values are the real value. So we all have 11 non-null values. Okay. On the region, we have 10 non-null. It means out of 11, we have 10 non-null values in the region, so that we can confirm from here that we have 1 null value. Similarly, they are giving information about the every column. And if we, especially the thing is, if we see loss value, it is saying that we have 10 non-null. 10 non-null means, it means we have only 1 null value. It means these 2 question marks are not being considered as a null value or a missing value here. Okay, let's see what we can do with them. Okay, the other thing is finding missing or null values. So there is a function df.isNull. Is there any null? So let's see. So we will get the Boolean here. We are getting the true where there are null values. So we can see that the null value is here. You can see the null value is here. So we are getting true in place of null value. Similarly, we are getting true here as well. So df.isNull is returning a Boolean for us, and we can get the values either false and true. So we will get the value equals to true if there is any null value. So we can also see that these 2 question marks are here, and they are not considered as a null value again. So it means our data set has these 2 question marks, that is, they are uninterpretable character in our data set, but they are not considered as a null values. The other function which can be used in order to find the null value is df.isNull.any. So we'll get the information of the null value with respect to column. So the name column do not have any null value. The region has the null value, the sale, the expenses, the loss value. So rest of the 4 column has the null values. And if we check how many null values are in a particular column, so we can write df dot is null dot sum. So here we can see that there is no null value in the name, no missing value. Similarly, in the region column, we have 1. In the sales column, we have 2. In the expenses, we have 1. And in the loss value, we have only 1. So it means we can see that in the loss value, we have 1. Expenses, we have 2 null values. And similarly, we have 2 null values in the sales column as well. It means these 2 question marks are not the null values. Now we have to deal with the null values. So the step is that we are going to replace this question mark with the null value, so that when we have all the null values and we do not have any uninterpretable character, then we will apply the strategy in order to solve those null values. So the step is that we are going to replace this question mark with the null value NaN, which is present in NP library. So look at this line of code, df dot replace. What we are going to replace this question mark in the data set with the value null. So let's run this cell. So we can see that these 2 question marks are replaced by null values now. But if I run this again, I can see that they are appearing again. It means this change was the temporary. If I want a permanent change, I have to write in place is equals to true. Now, this is very important step to remember. When you do not want to change your data set or your DF permanently, in that case, you can avoid writing in place is equals to true. But when you want the permanent change in your data set, you have to write in place is equals to true. Now, if I run this cell, so I will see this in place is equals to true. Now, if I run this DF again, now we can see that this has been removed permanently. Okay, now I have all the null values. So there is no interpretable character now in my data set. So I have now 3 null values in my DF last column, that is loss values. And I have 2 null values in the expenses column, 3 in the loss values, 2 here in the sales, and 1 in the region. Now all the values are loss values. Now I am going to deal with these null values basically. All values are null values. So I am going to create a copy of df. So I am calling it df1. So the command is df.copy and I am calling it df. The reason is that I want to store the original data as it is and I want to make change on the copy of the data. So that's why I am creating a copy. So this is my copy df, and now I am going to change this change on this copy of the dataset, and I also want to save my original dataset in the form of null values as well. So that's why I create a copy of my dataset. Now I am going to do something. The first is that I am going to replace null values with the value of 10,000. So wherever there is a null value, I want to write a 10,000 for it. This can be the first strategy, or we can see that. So the command is df.fillna. Fillna means fill the null value with this value. Here I have written 1,000, so it should be a 10,000 here. Okay, let's run this cell. So we can see that where there was a null value, we have replaced it by value equals to 10,000. So you can see that there were 3 null values here, and now they are replaced by the value equals to 10,000. So I did not make it a permanent change. Just I wanted to see what will happen. So we can see that here this 10,000 is not a good strategy. So these values are east, south, etc. So this is not a good strategy. Similarly, I have just replaced the null values with the 10,000, and for few of the column, it is not matching with the other values. So that's why I did not, till now, I did not make it a permanent change. So let's see the df1 again. So we are not happy by replacing every null value with the 10,000 value. Okay, now what we can do is I am going to replace the null value in the column of region with the word news, and I am make it a permanent change. So now I am dealing every column separately for the null value, because every column has separate values, separate range of values. So the first step is, first I am dealing with the null value in the region, and I am going to replace it with the word news. So you can replace it with any word like east, south, west. Just I am going to replace it with the word news. So how I will do it? So df1 dot region. So I have selected the column where I am going to make a change. Then dot fillna, I am going to fill the null value of this column with the value equals to news, and I am making it a permanent change. So let's run this cell. And now check our df1, our data set. So we can see that in the column called region, we have replaced the null value with the word news. Okay, now I am going to do the most important step of this lecture. That is, I am applying different strategies for the null value of each column. So what I am going to do here, now fill the null value of column sales with the mean of the column. So this is my column sale. So I have two null values. So what I will do, I will take the mean of the rest of the values which are not null values, and I will replace those null values with the mean of those values. Then I am replacing expenses with the median of the column expenses. So expenses value or the null values in the expenses column will be replaced by the median, and the loss value with the standard deviation, and the three values which are null values in the column loss values, they will be replaced by the standard deviation of the remaining value. So for every column, I am going to use a different strategy in order to use the null values. Now you can do any, you can replace all the three columns null value with the mean of their columns, or the median, or the standard, depends upon your choice or depend upon the task in your hand. So you can apply any of the method which depends upon your requirement. So here what I did first was to replace the null value in the column of region with the news word. Then I have these three columns which are in the form of floats. Here I have the numerical values in these three columns. So for the sales, I decide to replace the null value with the mean of the column. For expenses, I decide to replace the null value with the median. And for loss values, I decide to replace the value with the standard deviation of the column. So how I will do it in a single line of code. So you can see that I am writing df.fillna. So my data set is df, and I am filling the null values. So the values are for the sales. I am calculating the mean of the sale column. So this step df sales, here I am getting the column sale dot mean, it will calculate the mean of the sales column. Then for the second column or the next column, which is expenses, I am calculating the median of the expenses. You can see that here I am getting the column expenses, and here I am calculating the median. And for the last value, that is the last column loss values, I am going to calculate the standard deviation of the loss values, and I am making it a permanent change. That's why I have written in place is equals to true. So if I run this cell, all the null values will be replaced according to the strategy which we set in this line of code. Let's run this cell. Now check your data. Now we can see that the null value has been replaced in the sales column with the mean value 6155, and you can see that another 6155 here. The expenses value have been replaced with the median, and the loss value, if you see the loss value here, they are replaced with the standard deviation of the column, and the expenses value are replaced with the median of the column. So in this way, we have replace the null values with the non-null values using different strategies which we use for each of the column. So in this project, we learn how to deal with the missing values. First, we learn how we can create a data set with the help of pandas. In that data set, initially we had the null values, and similarly we had the values which are not null values, but they were uninterpretable for this data set. Then we see how many null values are present in our data. Then we replace this question mark character with the null values first, so that we have similar kind of null values in the whole data set. Then we create a copy of our data set so that we can retain our original data set as well and make changes on the copy of the data set. Then we replace all the null values with the 10,000. This could be our first strategy, but we did not see that it is going to be a good strategy for all the columns. Then we decided to treat all the columns separately. Then we replace the null value in the region with the word news. You can see here, we have replaced the null value in the column region with the news. Then we apply different strategy for each column. We replace the null value of the column sales with the mean of the column, and the expenses column, the null value in the expenses column are replaced with the median of the column. Similarly, the null values in the loss values column were replaced with the standard deviation of the column. So in this way, we have replaced all the null values with the non-null values, and now this data set is ready to go, and we can apply any machine learning algorithm on this data set. So I hope you have understood this lecture. Thanks for listening. I will see you in the next lecture.